hookah that is like very relaxing. Like you just know this is a leisure activity. There's no reason to like fret about anything. Just like, we're gonna fucking put some coals on some shit and we're gonna smoke some shit.
No, you got it right, and that's kind of why we came up with this attachment, was because using the vape exhale, it could be like really intimidating for a lot of people that are new, right? So they're like, how do I hold this? Sure. So by making this, and this is how I basically made it even better for myself, which was instead of just dry hookah action, now.
Oh, what?
Yeah, so I get the same.
Guys, this is marijuana and cannabis education. This is just, even if we don't talk about anything of value, you know how to properly take in a plant. You know, just like if you appreciate spinach or kale, another way to appreciate this plant. And some of you guys may wonder, why the fuck don't I dab with Seibo? Because he has a tolerance that we have yet to understand. I think we need to do some scientific testing on you, dude.
Absolutely. I am ready. All right. I think we could get this podcast started.
Let's get it started. You roll first.
All right.
Hey.
I'm sorry. Hey, everybody. It's Seibo Shen and Brandon Shen.
Hello.
With Happy Asian Males. I can't remember the episode number, but we will add that in the title. It's 17.
We got to get it right sometime. We'll fucking know.
Yes. I had messed up when I was uploading, and my audio and video files aren't synced up with the numbers correctly, so I'm like thoroughly confused. But if you guys might notice, we are in a brand new studio, so we stepped it up. We got microphones. We're outdoors somewhere in this like alleyway with this graffiti.
Bro, we're in a psychedelic alleyway in like Hogwarts 9 3/4 train station, but it's like this seedy kind of like Moss Isley cantina, and it's a little shady. Like Seibo got into a fight, and now we're just outside and we're debriefing. So
yes. So speaking of the fight, 1-0. I have one. No, I'm just kidding. We had actually, we had a good conversation before we even sat down today, which,
yes.
We were discussing what we wanted to talk about, and I think we both agreed.
GSD. I like that timing.
So what does GSD stand for the uninitiated?
It stands for getting shit done. So we're talking about, we talk about mental, emotional faculties and skills you can develop, but we now are going to talk about application in the 3D world, meaning like using your hands. Like I was just listening to Kendrick Lamar on the way here, and he was just like, he's a really good lyricist. He just says real things, and he was talking about being hands-on, all effort, like learning the hard way. And I was like, damn, you don't hear that too often in hip-hop. It's always like, oh, I'm better than you. I did all the surpass. It's like he's talking about working hard, just pure putting it out into the world. So, and the word that we were talking about when we were having boba, for those of you guys who know what that is, it's just milk tea and tapioca. But we were talking about the Japanese concept of IKIGAI. It's IKIGAI, and it's the intersection of 4 qualities. I think there's questions that you ask about what does Ikigai mean to you, and we ran into a little bit of a little trouble in like thinking about, okay, in the Western world, what does that even mean to somebody? The feeling of satisfaction, having resources that keeps you, off the streets, and a desire to do it, and then also like, do you actually possess the skill and competence to make a difference? Yeah,
so I really like the concept of it, but I wasn't too sure if I fully understood. But if I maybe repeat it back to you, is it to try to find out, things that not only you're good at, but you could also make money to survive, and also interest you enough to keep doing it? Is that a accurate definition of?
Yeah, it's like the full package of something that's like, yeah, I'm going to wake up and I'm going to do all these things because I'm going to go to this place because it offers me these benefits.
Yeah, and, I guess just to put it in context, the reason why this even came up was that we meaning Canna Athlete / Vape Exhale, is going to meet Anthony Johnson. Anthony Johnson is a UFC fighter, or a recently retired UFC fighter, and many people consider him like the most ferocious offensive fighter in UFC history, but a lot of people also think that he is unfulfilled potential. And it is because his whole life doesn't center around fighting. He just happens to be really, really good at it. And ultimately, I mean, when he retired, people asked him what he was going to do. He said he was going to get into the cannabis industry, which is why we're speaking. But, you know, basically they said, you know, don't you feel like you might want to unretire and come back at some point?
Get it together and do what we want you to do.
Yeah, and I think he's only 30 years old, so he's really right in the prime of his career. And he said,
shit, man.
He said, no, I'm retiring because I don't really like fighting. You know, I'm good at it, but I don't really enjoy it. And then that's when you said that word. And basically, you know, many times, maybe if you are gifted in a certain area, maybe you're super tall and people are like, you should be a basketball player, and you happen to be pretty good, but your passion's not in it, your heart's not in it, you know. That's not a good reason to be playing basketball to fulfill other people's wants and needs.
Here's what Wikipedia says Ikigai is. It is a Japanese concept that means, quote, a reason for being, unquote. It is similar to the French phrase raison d'être. Everyone, according to Japanese culture, has an Ikigai. Finding it requires a deep and often lengthy search of self. Well, fucking look at that. Self-awareness. Finding your Ikigai is a journey, right? So, like, going back to what you said, that interested me too, because there are plenty of people who have athletic talent. They have all of the resources, financial, family support, and, you know, people are like, yeah, rah, rah, and they're just like, I have no desire to do it. And you can't make them do it, right? Because going forward into the hard parts of the frustrating part about being a fighter, I'm sure there's lots of shit we don't know about.
Yep.
And if he just doesn't have that, it's not his Ikigai. But it could be something he dabbles in, but if it's the reason for getting up and it's just not his reason for getting up, you can't force it.
Yeah. I feel like this podcast should actually not be GSD, but Ikigai.
Are we just going to say Asian things on our Happy Asian?
Ikigai. Oh, you know what? That was hilarious. I don't know if you saw his face, but that is the face that Japanese girls make when they say something cute and cover their teeth. Back to what we were talking about. That reminded me of Ricky Williams. You know, I've had a chance.
Player.
Yeah, I've had a chance to meet him. Heisman Trophy winner, multiple-time All-Star, or what are they called? I think they're called All-Stars.
Sports winning. He's just fucking good, because that's hard to do.
And a lot of people think of him as unfulfilled potential as well. And he loved cannabis. He's into yoga. He's really into kind of this progressive, like Californian healthy lifestyle.
For sure.
So he also did not feel like he was defined by football, and he had other interests where he was doing a lot of self-discovery, which that is what made me think of the story as you were reading the definition about how you need to find yourself before you could discover your Ikigai or understand if something has the right Ikigai for you. And I'm sorry, I don't know if I'm using the word correctly in the right context.
Yeah, but it is like there's an intersection. So I'm going to just to give us a working definition. There's what is not Ikigai. You have satisfaction in your job, but the feeling of uselessness. That's not right. Comfortable, but feeling of emptiness. That's not right. Excitement and complacency, but sense of uncertainty. That's not fun either. Delight and fullness, but no wealth. And these are all of these kind of like almost hitting the marks. Like if, you know, you really like fashion, but you're stuck at this kind of barista job, and the barista job gives you people skills, but it's like you feel satisfaction, but there's no uselessness. Like you're not applying yourself.
Right.
These are all things like circling around Ikigai. So you have to go further and find something that offers the next, both of those things, maybe 2 or 3 of those things, and then eventually 4.
You know, like as we start talking about this, I'm starting to kind of remember some certain things about how. Okay, sorry. Just to go back, you know, the reason why I like this word so much was I was like, is there an English equivalent to this word? And
we were talking about
neither of us could think of it. And then we kind of got into the topic of, you know, does language have enough diversity to define a lot of these things that, you know, like the word woke, you know, for young kids. They're, I guess, politically aware was the previous term for that. But, you know, having that word woke, I think it's powerful because now you could just say that word and people understand, you know, what the, you know, kind of broader definition behind it is.
Yes.
And that's why I think having that word is super important. And if we, okay, so back to what I was talking about was I think in English, IKIGAI might be able to be distilled down into doing something that fulfills your mind, body, and soul.
Yeah.
All three things. You
Yes.
know, and
Yes.
and you know, finding something that when it can fill all of those different buckets, because when you were reading those definitions, and it might be worth showing them, or we could show you the link later of what Brandon was looking at, but it kind of showed like these different buckets that each thing would fulfill, and then what it wouldn't fulfill, and then you could kind of see that when it's imbalanced like that, then ultimately you're not happy. You might be satisfied, but you're
Right.
not like, you know, when someone's like, how are you doing? You're not like, great. You're just like, oh, good, you know. And I think that if you could fulfill the mind, body, and spirit, and, you know, I think this has been that pervasive theme about us being in a group where, you know, obviously professional and intellectual stuff, like, you know, those things are valued, but kind of spiritual awareness or, you know,
Yeah.
talking about like negative emotions is not really encouraged. You know, that spiritual bucket is always very low, and you know, maybe these safe spaces that we're giving ourselves is what helps us become, you know, more complete humans that are ultimately more happy and can deal with, you know, even something as politically crazy
As what's
we
going on
are
right now.
Yeah, yeah.
Dude, okay. I just had like a shiver, a chill up my spine that just kind of happened because of what you said. And it just reminded me of how our culture, right? In Australian culture, they have something called a gap year. And I think Europeans practice this too. When their kids graduate high school, they let them go off and wander the world for a year. And they support them financially. They're like, go fucking travel, do weird shit, do whatever, and then come back. I think even the Amish do that to their teens too. They let them actually go out into the real world, and they ask, do you want to choose the Amish lifestyle?
Right.
And we don't have that. We have this strong pressure to jump immediately into adult life with no segment where you have reflection on yourself. Only what you want. And it's just always, how is it going to satisfy my elders or the people taking care of me? It's like, oh, I've done my time. I've raised my kids. I'm going to put them in college. You better do me right. There's this implicit pressure to have it. Oh, I don't want to dishonor my family and, like, you know, pick the wrong thing. So there's this really strong pressure to just pick something with no information. I mean, I'm talking about career-wise.
Right.
There's no emphasis on satisfaction at all. It's just, is it going to pay the bill? There's not even that question. It's not even a woke thing, you know what I mean? Like, no one sat down and mentioned that at all.
Yeah, yeah. And I think, you know, I mean, once you become a parent, like, something weird happens to your brain where you become, like, a lot
Sure.
more practical. You know,
Yes,
you're like,
that
okay,
makes sense.
This child depends on me 100%. And I tend to think that, you know, especially if you're a parent that is working a job that you don't want to work,
Yeah.
then whether you're conscious or not conscious of it, many times you'll just tell your kids to go down the safe route.
Right.
You know,
suck it up, do it, get it done.
Yeah, yeah, that's my belief. You know, it's kind
True.
of like, I don't want to say it's like sour grapes, but, you know, like, well, it could be for a multitude of reasons, but I can understand why a parent would just want their kid to have, you know, you go to this 9 to 5, you'll make, you know, 6 figures, and life will be safe, smooth, and consistent for you. But,
Right.
you know, does that bring satisfaction? And I think that's where a lot of people, they don't really do that analysis. They don't do the analysis because if you ask yourself that question,
Right.
and the answer is, I'm unhappy, well, guess what? Then you have to make a change, right? And we all know
Negative
that
emotion steering you towards, hey, what is going to give us less negative emotion?
Yeah, yeah, and being driven by fear, I always think that's when I make my worst mistakes.
Dude,
you know,
too
worst
quick.
decisions.
Yeah, it's always a safe pat. Like it's not a beneficial thing where it can help us grow. It's just like, don't
Yeah.
die, don't die.
So this is how I'm going to tie it back with the GSD and getting shit
Ooh.
done, is that once you are aware of yourself through the gap year or just through life and being more conscious about what's happening to you as you're evolving, then I believe that once you understand that, then once you start making decisions based on those things and you have to accomplish things for those decisions to happen, like a goal, then because you are into it, you put much more emphasis into getting it done quickly. If you don't give a shit about what's going on in your life, then why would you get any shit done? But if you could identify your passion, then getting shit done, I think, just happens because you're passionate about something. Like, I don't think about getting shit done for my company. I just know that there's stuff to do. I don't need to motivate myself because I'm into cannabis and helping people recover and learn how to use this properly, that it just becomes like an autonomic routine for me. And I came to this epiphany while we were talking, because when I was younger, I really, really believed myself to be like intrinsically lazy, just like looking for like easy ways out.
Totally, me too.
And now that I've been able to discover my passion and what I really want to do, I'm able to get shit done in a way that would look like I'm rushing everything or being super quick and responsive, but it's just because I'm into what I'm doing. So,
dude,
I just do it naturally.
I just had another, I like to follow, the hair raising on the back of my head. Like, that means that we're talking about something meaningful, right? People, they want meaning, they want value and purpose in their life. I don't think people, and when we're talking about intrinsically lazy, I think that was a judgment I had for myself when I was telling myself, I don't want to fucking do that. But I wasn't also asking myself, what would I rather be doing? I just know that I'm just rebelling against what I'm being told is I'm supposed to be doing. Like, I don't want to fucking work this temp job after college because I didn't have any life skills, and I didn't follow that. We have to go through that period where it's like, shit, that sucks. We'll find something that sucks less, and I have to actively go find it. And I don't think people are intrinsically lazy. I think they subconsciously conserve their energy for the right task. But your mind's not going to, your subconscious isn't going to tell you that. It's not going to spoil the mystery for you. It's going to be like, go fucking find it. Go out and fucking hunt for it. You know what I mean? Like, you got to go shake a bunch of fucking hands. No matter what you're going to do, you're going to have to meet people that you don't like, that you really like, that you're going to need something from, that you're going to need to give something to. That's just how it's going to be. But it won't seem like a thing. You won't have to motivate yourself if it's in that realm of IKIGAI. Because, people talk about motivation and laziness. I'm like, you're just not in the right thing. Because people, 3 or 4 hours max, can just do things in the day, like with focus, attention, like, building something.
Right.
But then you can go beyond sometimes. Where does that energy come from? People would, like craftsmen, like, how do they just get into something? Maybe they stumble upon it. Someone showed them. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is such a tough thing, because there are times where, you discover your passion and you still have to, pull yourself up and grind through, horrible days. And,
totally.
So I just wanted to make sure that people listening aren't under the impression like, okay, once I feel resistance, if I'm not into it, that means I haven't found my passion. But I think, through that phase of self-discovery, you got to start knowing yourself well enough to know when you're bullshitting yourself and when you're really tired, that was one of the things that...
Yeah, when you're actually physically tired.
Yeah, and I think we may have talked about this last week, but, I wanted to hang out as a group with Gordon, since he was the one that brought us all together. I overexerted myself, and,
He tried to beat Gordon, and he didn't.
Yes, Gordon. Give me
His
maybe 2
power
more
thighs
years.
Just squeezed the life out of Seibo.
Power
This wasn't
thighs.
in jiu-jitsu. This was in a chance encounter with
we were fucking each other. No, just kidding.
There you have it, guys. Horse's mouth.
Okay, so where was I in the story real quick?
You were talking about tired versus getting things done.
Yes. So, it's taken me 40 years to understand my body well enough where I could just say, hey guys, I'm way too tired to go out tonight, and not push it, because I pushed it earlier in the day when I didn't think, or when I felt like I didn't have enough energy, went to jiu-jitsu, got my ass kicked, and then couldn't go out in the evening. So, anyway, so that was my super long-winded way of saying that, before this process begins, a lot of self-discovery also needs to take place, or also just continue to take place in parallel, so that you know when you have found your passion, and when you're just tired and you should get some rest and not have to grind through. Because, like I said, I am working my dream job, but I have many days where I'll feel like I'm stressed. Is this worth it?
Yeah, like, fuck this nonsense.
Yeah, and, that still happens in a dream job.
So here's, we're talking about hard test of limits, right? Like, putting yourself through an experiment. I've been through lots of extreme situations in the past several years. Like I went out to survival school and I stayed out in the wilderness for a whole week with just a knife and the clothes on my back. You know, I had other people there, but I literally pushed it to the limit of how much I could do without. And also backpacking, you know, at 14,000 feet in South America, I literally pushed my physical limit. 12-hour hiking days, like 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. That's how I knew my absolute limit. Like I was like staring at a wall, ready to cry. Like, you know, on the third day. It just, but hard, you don't have to test absolute limits to find out where they are, but you can go hiking or you can go out to nature and just be like, okay, I don't have to do anything except drink water and eat. What are my actual limits? And get an honest read for that, because some of the time, like, you know, we're humans, we're soft creatures that are born from a mother, and we have to learn to handle bits of discomfort more and more as we grow. Right? The price of learning to walk is you're going to run into shit eventually. You're going to fucking bump your leg and you're going to be like, fuck, you know, but how do we stop ourselves when we get bumped? Like, how do we, I mean...
So I'm curious, those days where you felt like you were at your limit, what did you say to yourself, or how did you break through?
Honestly, it had to do with the people around me. Like, if I didn't have any physical, like, bumping into other people or exchange, I would have gone insane. I don't think that I could have done it without just talking to other people.
Man, you know, I love that. That wasn't the answer I was expecting, but I really like that answer, especially given the political climate today, because, you know, I could just speak for myself, especially when VapeXL is doing very well. You know, like, many times I'll feel like, man, I did it, you know, look at what I did. And then the truth of the matter is, you know, I get to speak on behalf of my company, and I designed the first product, but since then it's been a total team effort. And,
Totally.
you know, I always try to remember that and pay gratitude for that, because, I mean, like I said, I get to do the funnest part of the job, which is to go meet celebrities, consume cannabis with them, and do the dog and pony show, which I love doing. And without the team, you know, I wouldn't be able to do all those things.
Stage crew,
yeah,
man.
yeah. And I really believe that, you know, just like that group helped you through, you know, we as people, I mean, dude, the neo-Nazis and guys like that, of course, you know, I'm not saying try to work it out with them, but there's still a lot of people that are like, you know, the conservatives and the liberals are still at each other's throats, you know, try to defend or just certain ideologies. And I'm just like, man, you know, the truth of the matter is, if we didn't have a label for this, I believe that you two could get along extremely well. And I've seen this so many times where people get along up until the point they realize what political group they're a part of, and then everything the other guy says all of a sudden has like the stink of a alt-left or an alt-right person. And I'm just like, man, you know, your vision is clouded now, and I wish we didn't know that part about each other.
I'm going to just speak right now. When I was in survival school, Donald Trump got elected president. That was when I didn't even have an inkling of what was happening on the news until, like, I woke up one day in, like, a second week in survival school, and they were just like, well, Trump's president. I was like, I had to do a reality check, because I was in Trump territory with people who believed in him, and here I am, this, you know, fucking granola hippie dude from California, all up in Missouri, with people who love Trump. And here's the crazy part. They're really good friends with me now. I'm good friends with them. We had to survive and work together. And I'm not going to spoil this for any Game of Thrones people, but there's a theme going on where a lot of people are having to work together in the latest 7th season because of The Walking Dead, right? There's something going on that our country is needing to unite. Something, you know, maybe it's like this weird form of spiritual growing up. Like, Americans really do need to go deeper and look at our own shit as like an entire country. It doesn't matter what your political label is. It's just, if we don't have a word for IKIGAI, we have a lot of unsatisfied people. You know, I'm just going to say, yes, capitalism, whatever. I'm not going to harp on it too much. But it doesn't mean you can't find purpose. There's plenty of people who find their meaning to GSD. Like, that's the real force behind getting shit done, right? There's something bigger that you get an intrinsic reward from, right? Like, I have this theory that people who really worship food aren't happy. Like, I'm not saying food isn't beautiful or, you know, but it's like when you're taking pictures of food and that's your main activity aside from surviving, do Do you take food pictures?
You're my Facebook buddy, but
Oh,
I do other stuff.
That's not the only thing you do. You're not Seibo the foodie. You're not on fucking Yelp when I'm talking to you. There's people who are. I mean, that's just a symptom, right? If you can put that much effort into making food look beautiful, imagine if you put that effort into something that you really wanted to do. Like food is an amazing thing. It sustains us. What else sustains you though? That gets you further than just like, I'm going to just do the required stuff. Maybe people just want to do I don't think people really do want to just do the required stuff.
I don't think so either.
I don't believe that.
When I converse with people, at some point in the discussion, I always ask them, when you were younger, did you think you were going to be special? Or if they are a young person right now, I'm like, do you think you're gonna grow up to be someone special? Mm-hmm. And almost everyone across the board says yes. I thought I was gonna be famous or I was gonna do something big. Everyone. So to me, that means everyone wanted that. So
sure.
Now the people that were willing to put in the work to get that, that's a different story. How much of it was them? How much was it, the people around them that taught them the work ethic? It's hard to say. It's hard to say, but I was thinking, at least tactically for people, finding yourself. Obviously, it's a pretty tough thing to do. It doesn't happen overnight. I think it's a lifetime's worth of work
for sure.
But the tactical things that they could do in order to get shit done is. I love using reminders on my smartphone. That's for the iPhone, but I'm sure they have something for Android. And just writing down what I need to do. That helps, I think a lot of times, especially when people feel like they're really busy, I always ask, well, what are the things that you need to get done? And when they actually verbalize it or they write it down, it's like 4 things. But before they do that, it seems like...
a million.
Yeah, it feels like a million. Maybe some of them take a long time, but
yeah.
I think the act of writing it down and what date you'll complete it by, that's the simplest thing. That's the simplest thing,
yeah.
I think, because if you don't get it done by that date, then you have a constant reminder that, you're
right.
just someone that writes down empty promises, and you should feel like shit for not getting it done.
No judgment. No judgment there. Harping on that too, there's a book called The Power of Less by Leo Babauta, and it's a great book because he talks about your 3 most important tasks, your MITs, right? You have a certain amount of finite willpower. Are those 3 things? They can be small, but, like you said, list them out. But also, too, here's what I learned about environmental triggers. Like, if you just have a desk and there's just only a place for a laptop and your mouse, you're going to do just that. You're not going to, if you have all kinds of distractions in that environment, it's going to be confusing. Like, you're not going to get the right signal. Okay, this is work time, and then there's play time, right? Like, I had a Chromebook specifically so that I wouldn't fuck around on my laptop and look at weird shit. And so all I could use was, like, the Google programs, right? Like, I mean, I could go on, like, other websites, but it just wouldn't handle any good video. It had no, like, codec, so I just couldn't browse the internet for fun.
Yep.
And that was my work laptop, literally, until it died. Great product. But knowing that, I controlled that. That was my work environment. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. And, as someone that works from home, that is a difficult thing as far as...
That's the new norm. People do work at home now.
Yeah, but I think it's important. It's like, even though I don't need to wear, like, a suit or... I try to wear, sweats as much as possible. When I show up to certain places, I do put on the monkey suit just because.
Like literal monkey suit?
No, just a suit and tie. But,
okay, because, I mean, you are the stone monkey.
Good point. Sometimes a monkey suit for some cosplay.
Maybe if I excel, like the actual logo that's on your, if you just.
I'm not just the founder, I'm also a mascot.
He's like Red Robin.
Yeah, but back to my main point was not only does let's say the investor or the buyer for the dispensary look at me a certain way, I also feel a certain way by putting on the symbolic professional outfit. So
I hear that.
I really think getting stuff done. When I was talking about writing it down and hopefully you feel worse and worse every day that you don't complete your task. I mean, it's hopefully to help build the discipline so that when you do write something down. That within that time frame or a reasonable time frame, you'll get that done and not have to beat yourself up over not completing tasks.
And also, too, I will say about choosing when to relax. And one thing, one of the biggest benefits I've learned from Olympic weightlifting is when the fuck to rest and when the fuck to go. Like, there is no in between. Like, if you're resting and fretting about something, you're not really resting. You're just thinking about, you're trying to go back to the lift even though it's not happening. So if you have your task list and you have these things, okay, I have 4 things, I'm going to either get it done or I'm not at all. You know, like knowing I need to relax. Again, knowing when you're tired, like, or am I just not sure? Knowing when to ask for help, right? That's a tactical decision too. Like, I don't know what to do here. Who do I ask? I think that's kind of that's a variable thing between people. Like, what do they do next when they can't figure it out?
Yeah, and you know, I think just to bring it back to what you were saying earlier about that book that you referenced and the willpower, is that I think that a lot of people think about utilizing their physical energy. You know, like I worked out earlier today, so I'm physically tired, but I don't think people understand that, like, when you worry and stress about certain things, that's mental energy that is draining your willpower as well. And I always really push people to have a meditation practice because of that. You know,
like
so
last week
that
we talked about that.
Yeah, so that you, I mean, if you just tell someone who's anxious all the time, like, quit thinking about your problems, like, that's probably another problem that they'll start thinking about, you know, like, oh man, someone just told me, like, thinking about my problems is bad. And
I don't have a meditation practice. Oh, what do they think of me? Are they judging me? You know,
So I think through the meditation practice, you know, you really train your brain to allow it to think of the things you want it to think about and exclude the thoughts that, you know, just might be, you know, busy thoughts that are burning brain cycles.
I think you may have posted this, or one of the other guys we know, but like, it was of a Buddhist monk talking about the monkey mind, right? Understanding that you don't try to shut the monkey mind up, you give it something to do. That's the point of meditation, right? Like the counting, the breathing. It's just some remedial task that is so easy, but it still distracts it, so that instead of like, shut up, dude, it's like, that's not a good command. It'll shut up for 3 seconds and then it's on for the other 23 hours and 59 minutes. You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy we live with that, but that definitely is a factor. Like, meditation, so you know when you're, you know, maybe that's when people figure out what they actually need to do, don't you think?
I mean,
or maybe not. I don't know.
I feel like I get tons of different benefits from doing it, whether it's just like feeling recharged, or sometimes I have epiphanies about, you know, problems that I've been thinking about for a long time without actually thinking about them. Sometimes I mean, I'm still kind of exploring this space because, you know, I think of myself as a white belt in meditating. You know, like
too.
I try it a lot. I don't think I'm extremely good at it, but I've experienced the benefits enough where I know that it's a good practice. And for someone like myself that's so busy, I know that it's super important for me. And, you know, when I can tap into that, like a 15-minute meditation session could feel like, you know, a 2 or 3 hour nap.
That too. And you know, and also, like, right, physical rest, like if you do mentally intense work, sometimes, you know, like I've seen people knock the fuck out in a yoga class. They just fall asleep. Maybe that's what they needed. You know, their nervous system needed a physical nap. You know, nervous system drainage is a real thing. I don't want to go too deep into that. But yeah, sometimes you're just like, man, I do want to get this thing done, but I just maybe need a 10, 15-minute nap. I think that culture should be more present. I think it's talked about, but I don't think it's really put into the structure of the work week. Like, it's kind of looked at like, oh, this person naps. What, you know, there's still that kind of illusion that the successful entrepreneur person doesn't sleep, 4 hours dead, protein shake. You know, it's like, it's like, no, they're effective with their energy management. They realize the finiteness of their willpower, and they're like, I'm not going to let other shit take it from me.
That's a good point, you know, and, you know, there's varying levels of awareness from these CEOs, and, you know, that there are some freaks out there, you know, I call them robots. You know, I've seen these guys that could I don't know what type of price they're going to pay later in their life, but...
Ooh, it's like the dude from Tomorrow Never Dies. He doesn't sleep. He has this hologram sleep machine.
Yeah,
He's really fucked in the head.
These guys, they go 3 to 4 hours every single night, and they could function at a really high rate. Our CFO is one of those guys.
What? No, how the fuck does he do that and manage numbers?
Well, he told me that what typically happens is when he's in between jobs, like like one of the companies gets sold or whatever,
right?
Is that he sleeps literally for like 2 weeks straight.
Woo! It's like I heard Napoleon did that. Like in battle, he wouldn't sleep a wink, and then he'd sleep for fucking 3 days straight.
Yeah,
and no one bothered him. Totally understandable. Totally.
Yeah, he basically said he would get up, eat, shit, then go back to sleep. And I was like, man, that just means that you were at such a deficit that once you allowed yourself to rest, it told you needed to, be like Snow White and get your beauty rest.
That, maybe he has that benefit of like, yes, I'm going to make it up in this period. I don't know. I can't do that anymore.
Yeah, me neither. I don't think it's a very balanced way, and I don't think it's anything that he does anymore, but could be just younger folks are capable of doing that. But another tactical thing that I just remembered and to get things done is I had heard of people giving themselves like negative reinforcement. And one of the best ones that I heard, and this was specifically for someone that wanted to quit smoking, was that every time he had a cigarette, he would have to donate to this cause, and that cause was like really against his morals.
Oh, cornering yourself. That's interesting.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. And
what was it? Like, what would he...
I can't remember, but it had
something against his values.
Yeah, okay. I don't want to make this overly political, but it was like some sort of like Trump supporting cause, and he was vehemently against them. So anytime he smoked a cigarette, he knew he was donating money to that cause, and that really kind of like it trained him. So every time he thought of a cigarette, it just triggered that feeling of donating.
But then did make you want to smoke, knowing that your money is in the hands of a. It's like, but that is an interesting tactic.
Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe that would for some people. For him, it got him to quit, and he's one of the guys on Hidden Brain, that podcast that NPR does. But it made me think about, cool. I mean, for myself, I've always been tough on myself. Like especially like if I wrote something down and didn't do it, that was enough to get me to do it. But if you need some extra, motivation, then maybe attaching some sort of monetary contribution.
Right, whatever motivates you, if that, then make it so that it detracts from what motivates you.
Yeah, I mean that's a super extreme example, but I was thinking about how you had the Chromebook and how you were doing deliberate things that would get you into the mindset of working, right? And give you either incentives to do things the right way or disincentives when you were doing things the wrong way. So that made me think about how the guy was trying to heavily disincentivize himself from smoking again, and that was his path.
Yeah, it's so funny because, like, in that sense, we are creatures, right? That's how we figure out how to domesticate animals. We have to figure out their motivations. What do they like? What do squirrels like? They like acorns, and and we'll put it there, and then we'll bait. It's like we have to turn that ability right back at ourselves and manipulate ourselves.
Yeah,
that's really hard to do.
You know what? Now that we kind of talked this through, and I was doing some additional thinking, is that, man, if you really got to play mind games like that to get yourself to get stuff done, you're probably doing the wrong things. Then it goes back to what we were talking about knowing yourself and making sure that you're doing things that that make you happy, that fulfill you economically as well, and then have some sort of like spiritual fulfillment. Whether it's I think the spiritual part is what like maybe throws some people off. But when I say spiritual, it could be as easy as doing something like weightlifting or jiu-jitsu, where you're just in the zone, enjoying the movement, and being present. And that to me is also a spiritual practice.
For sure. And these negative emotions that come with like, man, I really didn't like that. That's a good thing to listen to if you're being present to it. But if you're just like, okay, I'm following the rule book, of how my life should be going about. Like, I go to work until 5 and then I go to the gym. Those things don't make me happy. Well, what about the gym doesn't make you happy? Is it the people? Is it the practice? Like, what if you find something that works better so that you get to relieve that energy in your own way? You know, and I find that people kind of have taken this passive attitude about just shopping for classes that cater to them. It's like, maybe you need to go get lessons for something that only you are going to want to do. Do you know what I mean? Like, if that single practice, like I train 3 people now only because they want to really learn weightlifting. I don't do personal training with them. I'm like, you're going to do a bunch of homework. I'm barely going to be in the picture. I was almost like shooing them away. But they're like, no. This is like my thing. I'm dedicated to it. I want to learn this as a craft. And I'm like, that's way different than the people I used to work with who were just like, I don't want to exercise, but I'm going to pay you a bunch of money to make you seem like I'm being exercised, but then I can complain about how you torture me. I'm like, I don't want to fucking spend my life having someone complain about me torturing. I'm like, but that was my agreement too, right?
I call those people that live by checking off the boxes in their life. You know, it's like, all right, you know, I'm a busy professional. I should be healthy. Okay, well, what do my friends do? Well, they get personal trainers, and they work out a few times a week. So, you know, I'll do the same, as opposed to, you know, the other people that were like, I want to learn the art of weightlifting, you know, and even if you're trying to detract me, I want to learn it so much that I'm going to keep bugging you until you say yes.
But I was like, that was a huge switch, and I was also, because I was changing inside, my priorities definitely shifted. I didn't want them to just learn weightlifting. I wanted them to learn it as a skill to become happier people.
Yeah.
That was the next level thing. I was like, are they happy? And I was like, half of the clients I train aren't even fucking happy. I can't change that, though. I have no bearing on that. But if they give the skill from me, will that add to their happiness? And then those people started to come my way. Because I was happy in the weightlifting environment. I love it. You know, I'll go to like 12-hour meets where I'm like fucking bleeding through my eyes, counting stupid numbers that I hate to count. I hate to count. And it's a fucking numbers game. It's all just numbers. But I still do it, you know, even if I'm like, I haven't eaten in like 8 hours. I'm so fried. This person's performance of their lifetime is relying on my attention. You know, it's just like, but I'll still do it. I will muster up what it takes to let this happen. But other stuff I give a fuck about.
Yeah. Do you still actively compete, or?
I did last year, or 1 year ago exactly, a week ago.
Okay.
And I hadn't competed since like 2014 or 15.
And are you competing and coaching at the same time, or that's
I used
what
to
it
coach
sounds
myself. It was a bad decision because I had to count and do this weird mental chess game and then go out and maximum lift, and it would always fuck me up because I'd be half thinking and then half lifting. And so that's how a lot of amateurs have to do. We can't afford a coach. We just have to do it. But it taught me a valuable lesson about I'm going to either fucking coach or I'm going to be a lifter and give only a fuck about myself.
Yeah, so these people that you were training that were miserable people, what'd you end up doing with them? They still your clients, or?
Well, it naturally happened where I made some bad business. I think we talked about this. Like, I made some bad business moves. I just jacked up my rates, and then I was like, they're like, okay. The price was the factor, and we weren't there anymore. It was weird. It was this kind of like, I think my own ego roped me in so that it would cut them off, and I would just have a new start at something.
Yeah. I mean, I've done similar things where
I fucked myself, basically. that's the bottom line.
Well, instead of telling people like I don't want to work with you, I just do some stuff where you know, they don't want to work with me anymore. You know, and
right, and you can take responsibility for it.
Yeah.
I think that's what I did too. I was like, I'm gonna make this so bad that you just don't want to.
Yeah, and you know, I think. Well, when you said you jacked up the prices to the point where, you know, they had to make a decision.
And the price was the decision, not what I provided for them. So, in that sense, that relationship was, it served its time, and I'm grateful. I'm not at all, the experience and the learning I've helped. One of my clients couldn't even get out of a car. And then when I was done with him, he was back squatting 225 pounds. And people didn't believe that, you know, but I saw that. And I was like, but what about people who actually want to get that? am I serving them? Am I reaching them? That was a big ikigai for me, is am I reaching the people who actually need my help? I wasn't. I was insulated in this kind of like privileged environment where people were giving me people who, like at the gym I worked at, they just passed me people who had funds and they were like, yeah, we'll train. It was an easy thing. There wasn't a spiritual compatibility. You know, there wasn't this like, hey, I'm actually going to help people who need this.
Yeah.
That's why I left.
So how did you find these people that you can help?
I had to put myself out there on fucking Instagram. I hated Instagram and Facebook for the longest time. I was like off of social media for like 2 years. And I was Mr. Curmudgeon. I was just like, that's not how people connect. Humans are not wired that way. And I was just like, and then an ex-girlfriend of mine was just like,
I don't disagree. You know, I don't think we're really wired. Like, I think
you know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
But that's just where we're at. And an ex-girlfriend of mine, she was like, you need to get on fucking Instagram. Just shut up. That's just how you're going to need to do it. And I was just like, so I remember getting like my first follow. I was like, ooh, oh, it's someone in my family. You know, like, and I was like posting really bad videos in portrait. Don't ever film in portrait.
Oh yeah, that's a rookie move.
I made all those rookie moves for like a good 3 months. My videos are terrible.
But I feel like the most hood, like all the world star hip hop ones are.
Oh right, just person just like, oh yeah, look at that shit, look at that shit. Hey, fuck him up, fuck him up. And you're like, wait, that's a person fighting a dog, and you're like, this is a good video though.
yeah, totally.
Shout out to World Star Hip Hop. Entertaining us with violence since like 2008.
Oh man, I used to think I could stomach violence till I went to that website. I was like, man, this is super duper scary. And
it's ghetto E-bombs world.
Man, when I watched that, I'm like, oh shit, this is how crazy humans can get. You know, when they're pissed off over like someone's shoes or something insignificant.
And that's that kind of shit. E-bombs world and World Star would always derail me from actually doing emails and stuff. That's what we're talking about too. Is having a distraction-free environment is going to help you. Don't be too accessible to the internet.
Yeah, I mean, and ultimately, if you could just figure out the discipline to be able to have access to it and get shit done, that is, like, I think where you want to get to. But in order to get there, you know, doing all these little hacks, I think, is a great way. You know, like being in an office. Or
tactical stuff, yes.
Yeah. Or, like, when we set this, like, setup, you know, I feel like everything got taken up to the next level, so I had to figure out how to bring myself up a level. Whether or not I achieved that on the show, who knows? But, you know, that is the feeling that I got where I was like, you know, now we got a set, we got lighting, we're on iTunes, we fucked around for a little while, had a lot of fun. Now we've gotten some good feedback. Obviously, we could make this thing better. So how do we make it better? And maybe by making it better, just continue having fun and just letting it go where it goes. But, you know, I do feel like, you know, now that we got the $2,000 camera, yada, 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 you know, it did put me in that mind state of like, all right, well, how do we step this thing up and make it even better and get more shit done? iTunes, we're on there. Subscribe.
Happy Asian males, man.
Dude, thank you for that. This guy got shit done this week.
I promised last week. I didn't say which Friday, Seibo. But yes, I remember getting the email from the Productive, like it's like, you know, the group
reminder.
Group reminder. I was like, I didn't even see this. This is a week and a half old. Better get it done.
Well, you know what? And the flip side is I didn't look at it since I said it. You know, so we just got to get into the routine. But I think now that we got it set up, man, this is a great setup.
Well, and here's something too. Like this, what we're doing, this whatever project, I dedicate energy to this because I think this is the right thing. This gives me IKIGAI. It doesn't. I have other means of taking care of myself financially. But this is important for me to invest money in, and then also my time and you know, just sharing this cooperative experience to let the conversation is what changes stuff. Because I remember we were just talking about when I first became open to the idea of cannabis and movement and athletics, and it was through reading Eddie Bravo's introduction of the book Mastering the Rubber Guard. And remembering those key points of being inspired to think differently, sometimes I want to pay homage to those people or those moments where you're like, damn, that really jacked open my mind. Like, I need to do things differently. And I think that's what we're trying to do, is just not force you to do anything the way we do. It's just open your mind to new possibilities and new sources of like philosophy. You know, like find your IKIGAI. Get your GSD skills in line. Those are going to come in handy later on. But when you find something that just ignites you, those things are going to just make it reality. They're going to bring it into 3D space. Like, do you remember before you invented the Evo? Do you remember like kind of being in that place where you're like, man, it's not quite there. I don't know what to do. I'm not inspired. Like, I'm not satisfied, inspired, or I'm not getting paid enough. The other thing too, demanding what you are worth is hard to do sometimes. You know, in terms of money.
I mean, before I... Sorry.
Fix it with boba.
Boba.
It's so
Boba. Dude, remember that 10 ball boba?
Yeah.
The boba clump?
It was like a monster from fucking Godzilla.
Well, I mean, man, when I decided to start this company, I was at the pinnacle of my earnings. You know, I was making like $250,000 a year, working like 40 hours a week, basically fucking around, having hella fun outside of work. But I hated work. Like, things were so
just missing for you.
So imbalanced. I became the guy that, despite making a lot of money, was just complaining about everything at work. You know, and you know, and that's when I knew I needed to make a change. You know, it's like, that's when I knew like money was not the thing that would satisfy me. You know, and the crazy thing is, like, for anyone that wants to know what's a $250,000 paying job, get a sales job at a software company. If you hit your quota, that's how much money you make. You know, so all the guys that you know that are doing software sales, that are not just junior guys, but the junior guys are making over $100,000 too. But you know, these are all people that financially should be very happy, but most of them, you know, I mean, they all, I don't want to say they all, but most of them, if you ask them, if you could do something different, would you do it? Almost all of them say yes, you know. So I just knew that if you only live once and you know this doesn't make you happy, why would you stay any longer, you know? And I think once I kind of made that mental shift in my head, you know, instead of just getting the minimum done at work, you know, I was much more in the get shit done mindset.
Did anyone kind of challenge you or support you in your decision to like change your mindset about this? Like, you know, some people are like, why would you do that? And they're kind of detracting from your ability to change. And some people are like, yeah, that's a great idea.
As you can imagine, okay, so this was in 2010. So in 2010, telling people that you wanted to get into the cannabis industry, they were just like, you want to be a drug dealer?
That's stupid.
Oh, yeah, exactly. So,
well, look at you now, Seibo.
Look
at the people who, well, actually,
I like that
weird.
face. Seeing it on the monitor and then seeing it this way.
So I was like, wait, am I actually making the face to you? It's a screen. Anyways, go ahead.
Look at me now, Ma. But yeah, I mean, it was actually one of those things where I had enough conviction, you know, in my feeling to just know that, I mean, I didn't, as long as I could make a living, then I was happy. You know, that was kind of my goal. The fact that the cannabis industry started maturing as quickly as it did, I was like, perfect. You know, now I could go from just thinking like it would provide for my family to thinking that this would allow me to do whatever I wanted for my family.
And also too, like, you have that part taken care of, and like, does it meet some of the other kind of factors for IKIGAI for you?
You know, it definitely does. I mean, being able to teach people a healthier way to consume something that is really good for them.
Education making a difference.
Correct, is awesome.
I get educated every week. I learned something about how to take care of the way that I consume cannabis.
It's secondarily, you know, you guys see how often I use it on the show. It's not for marketing purposes. I just love using the device.
Enjoying it, man.
Yeah, so I have a lot of personal satisfaction, like making toys for myself that I can monetize. And ultimately, that's why I feel, I mean, it's if I was just in the vaping business making vaporizers that would profit the most for me, like I don't know if I would have IKIGAI. You know, but because I'm making the one that I want to use and I'm selling that version, I have a lot of IKIGAI. And actually that's why, you know, I never considered myself an artist, but now when I look at it, I do, because I'm like, oh shit, you know, like I actually just followed my vision for the way I wanted this device to come out. And I didn't do it in a manner where I was trying to satisfy investors to lower the cost of certain components so that we could have higher profitability.
Right.
It was just done in the way that I love to consume, and fortunately enough, you know, it's the way a lot of other people like to consume cannabis too.
And what's you can tell, because like when you kind of set it up and kind of like set the we've had several occasions where Seibo has been able to set this up for people, and it's fun to watch, and you know there's just you get it, it's like an experience, and then you get to try it and you're just like wow. And then when I tried to use it my own, I was like, man, I'm kind of spoiled. He just does it all the time, you know. And I was just like fumbling around. I was like, man, this is kind of hard to. And then I realized I just hadn't practiced it, you know. So that's part of the enjoyment too. Is you practice something over and over and over for no particular reason. You just because you want to, you know. There's no extrinsic reward for you just toying around. But now there is. Yeah,
and you know, I would say that all you need is probably 3 or 4 days in a row of using it, and then you'll become a black belt. It's pretty simple, but I know that I've enabled many a person because I just like being the bud tender at the event. It's pretty fun. So, okay, we're coming up on the hour here. So, as always, we'd like to wrap it up, and you know, I think we gave a lot of tactical advice. So maybe what we'll talk about is whatever you want to end with. It could be tactical advice. It could be your Somatica experience, which I forgot to ask you about today.
Oh, but, we'll go into that another time.
Yeah. So, what are you thinking?
Ask all parts of you. Ask your head, your heart, and if you're a guy, ask your dick. What do I mean by that? If it really, like, you know, turns your body on to be like, yeah, and it makes you want to walk towards it, I think you should engage in it. But if it scares you a little bit, is it in your head, your heart, or your you know, it's like, no, trust those sources of information. Not just one of them. Trust them all. And if you don't, find a way to start getting that information, because that's going to inform you of your Ikigai. It's going to tell you if you're moving in the right direction or not.
Man, that is powerful. And, you know, even though I haven't heard it described that way, you know, feeling it in your dick is... it makes sense to me.
So weird,
you know, there is, you know, like the feeling in your gut, and then there's like, I know what you mean, like the feeling in your dick is like, does it like primally like wake you up in that way, you know? And I think that's a good way to describe it, because, you know, when people go, is this my passion? I'm like, if you're asking me that question, then...
That's a hard no.
Probably no, dude. You should be like, this is fucking my passion, and someone's trying to convince you it's not, you know. So feel it in your dick. I will maybe even make a t-shirt out of that. Probably won't be very popular, but...
I borrowed that from so many places. So,
okay, cool.
Say. Anyway.
All right. You? So, parting notes is iTunes. Search us, Happy Asian Males. How do we get that onto, like, if people are on Android or something? Like,
I think we applied for Stitcher, so it's under the same name on Stitcher.
Okay, cool.
Double checking. There's other ways for us. Still making... my application is still... Or our application is still being submitted, I guess.
Okay.
It's weird to say.
Any fun things coming up for you?
I'm going to go see the eclipse in Oregon with my brother.
Oh, nice. We actually...
not see it.
We gave a set of our employees the day off because they're going to go check out the eclipse.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, so it should be cool. And what else? Oh, man. I'm going to, I don't know why, but I'm finally going to get interviewed. I have my TSA interview, so I'm TSA pre-check.
Nice. You don't have to go through that. Oh,
yeah, I don't have to take off my shoes anymore, so I'm super excited about that. And
that's a big deal at the airport.
Yeah, dude, it was like a 6-month wait.
For
so
real?
Finally,
Fuck, man.
finally, I'll be able to scurry to the front of the line like a privileged person. And
Yes,
I'll tell you, the reason why I want this is that I don't know if you saw on my Instagram feed, but I've been like taking out the Evo and like putting it on the airplane and taking photos.
I have.
But
Yeah.
if I could get in early on the plane, I planned on like setting up like 3 or 4 Evos like in a full row, and just taking a whole bunch of pictures before people get on. So.
That's so out of this world. Like, how would you get that? Like, that's so cool.
Well, the bag checkers, they're always super. I mean,
What is this?
They don't know what it is, but they know it's not dangerous, and they know it's probably something like fun and cool. So whenever they take it out and I describe it to them, you know, it's always a positive resolution for me.
Look out, airlines. Vape Exhale's coming for you.
Yes, sir. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll be back next week.
See ya.